मंगलाचरण। अखिल रसामृत मूर्ति प्रसृमर रुचिरुद्यतारकापालि कलितश्यामा ललितो राधा प्रेयान् विधुर्जयति। Welcome to the class. So we have been discussing the topic of the adhikaris, the people who are qualified to take up the practice of Krishna Bhakti, especially Vaidhi Bhakti here. That's the subject matter. So we have discussed Jiva Goswami's commentary. Now we'll take up Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. First, let us read the verses of Rupa Goswami. उत्तमो मध्यमश्च स्यात् कनिष्ठश्चेदि सत्रिधा तत्र उत्तमः शास्त्रे युक्तौ च निपुणः सर्वथा दृढनिश्चयः प्रौढश्रद्धोऽधिकारी यः स भक्ता उत्तमो तत्र मध्यमः यः शास्त्रादिष्व निपुणः श्रद्धावान् स तु मध्यमः कनिष्ठः यो भवेत् कोमलः श्रद्धः स कनिष्ठो निगद्यते. Let's go to Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. First, he repeats the same thing as in Jiva Goswami's commentary. So let me just revise that. So the faith in Shastras, Shastrartha Vishwas, one's conviction in the statements of the Shastras, the meaning of those statements. That conviction itself is called Shraddha. Okay. So the person whose conviction is firmly fixed in the Shastras, he is said to have advanced Shraddha or mature faith in Krishna Bhakti. And he is said to be Uttama Adhikari, the best qualified candidate to engage in the Bhakti practice to Krishna. Madhyama Adhikari, the person who has intermediate eligibility, is the person who is not an expert in the Shastras, but he is convinced that what the Shastras say is true, but he cannot refute the strong arguments of a particular opponent. So he is Shraddhavan, he does not lose his faith in the Shastras, even though he cannot refute some arguments. Such a person is called Madhyama Adhikari. He is lower than the Uttama Adhikari and higher than the Kanishta Adhikari. Then the Kanishta Adhikari is one who is Komala Shraddha, who is belief in the Shastras, his faith in the Shastras is very weak, and therefore it can be broken. So such a person is called Kanishta Adhikari, the lowest candidate eligible to engage in Krishna Bhakti. Okay. I just summarize the verses actually. So Vishwanath Chakravarti comments, Evam bhuto yah praudha shraddhassa eva uttamaadhikarityartha, same as Jiva Goswami. Now commenting on the Madhyama Adhikari, Anipona, the definition given was Yash Shastradishva Nipunah. He is not an expert in Shastra and other such topics. Other such topics means yukti, reasoning in the Shastras. So he is not an expert in that also. He is a Madhyama Adhikari. So, Balavad Badhe Datte Sati Samadhatum Asamartha. He is unable to refute a strong opposition. Still, he has faith. He has faith in the teachings regarding Bhagavan that he has received from his Guru. And in other such teachings that he has received regarding Bhagavan, he has firm faith. Manasi Dhrida Nishchaya. What do you mean he has firm faith? In his mind, he is deeply convinced about these things. There is no doubt in his mind about the Bhagavat Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, and all these concepts. But he lacks the ability to give a refutation to a strong opponent. That is his only problem. Regarding Kanistha Adhikari, Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Komala Shraddha शास्त्रयुक्त्यन्तरेण भेत्तुं शक्यो न तु सर्वथा भिन्नः तथात्वे भक्तत्वानुपपत्तेः. Komal Shraddhi has very delicate faith. It means a very weak faith in the Shastra. And therefore, when he is presented with logical arguments based on some other Shastras, his faith can easily be shaken. Okay, his faith can be broken. But Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Natu sarvatha bhinna. But his faith is not completely broken. His faith can be broken a little bit. Somewhat his faith is broken in Krishna when he encounters a particular argument from some other person. But he does not completely lose his faith. His faith is shaken, he loses his faith, but not completely. Because the reason he gives is that Tathatve bhaktatvanupatte. If he loses his faith in Krishna, he would no longer be a devotee of Krishna. And the topic here at hand that Rupa Goswami is discussing is the adhikari, the person eligible to engage in devotion to Krishna. He is adhikari. Only if he has faith in the Shastras which speak about Krishna can he have the eligibility to engage in Krishna Bhakti. If his faith is broken, he no longer has the eligibility to engage in Krishna Bhakti, and thus he would no longer be Kanistha Adhikari also. He would no longer be the lowest candidate eligible to engage in Krishna Bhakti. So that's why it has to be understood as his faith is not completely broken in Krishna. Okay? Although we should not discount Jiva Goswami's explanation earlier, which we saw in the previous class. Shastra yuktyantarena bhettum shakya. These are the exact words that Vishwanath Chakravarti takes up and gives some additional explanation that his faith is not completely broken. Jiva Goswami said his faith can be broken. Vishwanath Chakravarti says what this means is that his faith is not completely broken, because if it is completely broken, he is no longer even a Kanishta Adhikari, and thus this particular definition of Kanishta Adhikari would not be proper. However, respecting Vishwanath Chakravarti's interpretation, we should not discount or disregard Jiva Goswami's explanation, because from Vishwanath Chakravarti's explanation that his faith is not completely lost, he will not be able to explain why some devotees of Krishna lose their faith in Krishna completely. They completely lose their faith in Krishna. That is seen even in the earlier times also that was the case, in present times also that is the case. So even those who have been engaged in Krishna Bhakti under guidance of some guru for many, many years, or 20, 30, 40 years, after some time, they lose faith in Krishna when some arguments are presented to them, which they of course understood earlier also. But now, because they are not feeling the results of Krishna Bhakti in their lives, they think that this whole path is a hoax. it is just an imagination. That has been happening and that is happening to devotees now also. So thus we should understand Jiva Goswami's commentary properly also. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he says he does not completely lose his faith. बहिर्मुखकृत बलवत् बाधे सति क्षणमात्रं चित्तस्य दोलायमानत्वम् एव कोमलत्वम्. What does then Rupa Goswami mean that his faith is very weak in Krishna, his faith is weak in the Shastras? It means when a person who is not a devotee of Krishna, he is Bahirmukha, he is a materialist, he is uh, not interested in Krishna, he may be interested in Shiva or some other Deva, he may be interested in Brahma Sayujya, merging in Brahman. He just may be a materialist, just may be an atheist. So any person who is not a devotee of Krishna, when he presents a very formidable argument, so for a moment, this Kanishta Adhikari, his mind becomes dolayamana, means it becomes shaken. His faith in Krishna slightly moves. Okay? It does not stay fixed, it moves. Okay? It can be like, it can be shaken. Okay? But after that, Paschat, after his faith in Krishna is shaken, he concludes Swakrita Vivekena Virupadishtarthameva Nishchinoti. By his own intelligence, he brings back his conviction in the understanding which he has received from his Guru regarding Krishna and Bhakti and all these things. So, for a moment, his faith is shaken, and then he applies his mind and intellect in reasoning about the teachings that he has received from his Guru, and he understands that what they have actually instructed from the Shastras, that is actually correct, that there is no problem in that. So then his faith again comes on track, comes back on track. That is Kanistha Adhikari. Any questions, any doubts here? Okay, let's continue. Rupa Goswami says, Tatra Gītādiषu uktānām चतुर्णाम अधिकारिणाम मध्ये यस्मिन् भगवतः कृपा स्यात् तत्प्रियस्य वा सक्षीण तत्तद्भावः स्यात् क्षुद्ध भक्त्यधिकारवान् यथेभ शौनकादिश्च ध्रुवः स च चतुस्सनः. So, Shuddha Bhakti Adhikarva. How does a person develop eligibility for engaging in pure devotion to Krishna? So, Rupa Goswami says here, he brings up the Bhagavad Gita section of the 7th chapter, where Shri Krishna describes to Arjuna about the 4 kinds of people who engage in devotion to him. Chaturvidha bhavante mam jana sukritino Arjuna arto jijñāsur arthāti jnāni ca bharata rishabha. This is 7:13, I think. 7:16. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, and other such places, 4 adhikaris are mentioned. 4 people eligible to engage in Krishna Bhakti are mentioned. Among these 4, the one on whom Bhagavan's mercy is shown, or the mercy of his devotee is shown, such a person becomes eligible to engage in Krishna Bhakti. So such a person, when he receives the mercy of Krishna or his devotee, he becomes free. He becomes free from those respective uh, mentalities that he had before coming to Krishna Bhakti. Like if someone is in great distress and when he has a lot of mercy of a devotee of Krishna, then he will worship Krishna in order to get free of that distress and suffering. So when he engages in Krishna's bhakti in that way, he slowly gives up his desire to be free of suffering and becomes a pure devotee of Krishna. Syat Shuddha Bhakti Adhikarava develops qualification for pure devotion to Krishna. The examples are given from the Srimad Bhagavata. The elephant, Gajendra, Ibha, Shaunakadi rishis who were engaging in various yajnas in Naimisharanya, but were totally fruitless. And they approached Suta Maharaj and they listened to Srimad Bhagavata and experienced the ultimate success of their lives. Dhruva, who began his devotion to Vishnu in order to attain some worldly thing. He wanted to attain a kingdom that was greater than his father or grandfather. But by his practice of Krishna Bhakti, he became free of that desire and he became pure devotee of Sri Hari. Then Chatusana, the four sanas, means Sanat Kumar, Sanaka Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar. These four sons of Brahma were always of 4 to 5 years age. So that is brought up here. So Gajendra was Artha. He was in distress. He received Bhagavan's mercy, became his pure devotee. Shaunaka and Rishis, they were Artho Jitnyas. They were Jitnyas. They were inquisitive to know what is Bhagavad Dharma, what is devotion to Vishnu. They were inquisitive. And then they became pure bhaktas, pure devotees of Vishnu. Dhruva was Artharthi, desirous of material things. Then he became purified and became a pure devotee. The four Kumaras, they are in knowledge of Atma and Paramatma, in the sense that Atma is one with the Paramatma. They are jnanis. But then they attained mercy of Sri Vishnu and they became pure devotee of Sri Hari. The Shuddha Bhakti they got. So let's see Jiva Goswami's commentary. It's quite a long commentary. So generally he does not have such long commentaries on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but in this case he has. So let's discuss that. Let's understand that. So Jiva Goswami comments, Shri Bhagavad Gita Dishu ye chaturvidha adhikarinah utta tepi shuddha bhaktitah purvavastha eva vidyah tatre. In the Bhagavad Gita and other Shastras, the four kinds of people eligible which are spoken of there, they are actually the condition of those people before becoming pure devotees of Krishna. When Krishna says in the Gita, Chaturvidha bhajante mam, four kinds of people worship me. One who is in distress, one who is inquisitive, one who needs or is desirous of some worldly benefits, and one who is in knowledge. These people are actually the conditions of the people before taking up to the practice of pure devotion to Krishna. So that's what he will explain. Tatra cha yasmin iti sa iti cha सामान्येन उक्तिर यस्मिन् यस्मिन् स स इत्यर्थ यस्मिन् भगवतः कृपा स्यात् तत्प्रियस्य वा सः क्षीण तद्भावस्य the person on whom Bhagavan's kripa or the kripa or the mercy of his devotee is given. The person who receives Bhagavan's mercy or his devotee's mercy, that person gradually loses his nature of being such and such a person, and he becomes qualified for pure devotion to Vishnu. So Yasmin says whoever. So among these four kind of people, the person who receives Bhagavan's mercy, it means whoever among these four receives Bhagavan's mercy, that becomes qualified for pure bhakti. It does not mean that any one of these four people can attain Bhagavan's mercy or his devotee's mercy. It means among these four people, among these four kinds of people, any person, that is the sixth, any person who attains the mercy of Krishna or his devotee becomes eligible for pure devotion to Vishnu. That is the sense. Any questions so far? Any doubt? Okay. Then Shaunakadir Ganas Chatursana Sanakadi. We have discussed that. So Shri Gita Vakyan Cha Idam. So there are some typing errors in this edition, in this commentary particularly. So Bhagavad Gita statements which Shri Rupa Goswami refers here, they are quoted by Jiva Goswami in his commentary. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana supritanurjuna arto jityasur jnani cha bharatarshava. 7th chapter, 16th verse. Then the next verse, 17th verse of the 7th chapter is Tesha jnani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnaninotyartham aham sacha mama priya. उदारा सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतश्चानः प्रपद्यन्ते देवता तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. And other such verses are there. Gita 7.16 to 20. Tatra, there in the Gita, Jnani Atmavid iti tikakara. Tatra uttamatvasya karanancha vyakhyatavanta. Tikakara means the commentator, a respectful reference to Sridhara Swami. So the word Tikakara, the one who commented, when it is used by Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, it almost always refers to Sridhara Swami. So Sridhara Swami, in his commentary of the Bhagavad Gita, where Sridhara Swami has written a commentary on Srimad Bhagavata, Srimad Bhagavad Gita also, and Sri Vishnu Purana also. So in the commentary of Sridhara Swami has said, Tatra Jnani Atmavid. So in the statement of the Gita, the word Jnani, the one who is in knowledge, it means Atmavid, knower of the self. Not necessarily the one who knows Bhagavan, but he knows the self. The jiva. Tatra, and also he gives the reason. He gives the reason why this jnani is called as the best of these four kinds of people who engage in devotion to Krishna. So Krishna says, Tesham jnani nitya yukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priya hi jnanina atyartha. These jnanis, they are very dear to me and they are the best of all these four. Udara sarva eva ete. All these four kinds of people are very good, very wonderful people. But the jnani, the one in knowledge, is my very self. So the jnani is the best of these four. Why? Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary to the Gita, jnanina dehadhyabhimana bhavena chitta vikshepā bhāvāt nitya yuktatvam ekanta bhaktitvam cha sambhavati na anyasya iti. Because the jnani, he knows the Atma. He does not have the false conception that I am the body. He does not have the false conception that the things related with the body are my things. He is enlightened that I am the self, not the body. So because he is already in such an enlightened stage, chitta vikshepa bhava, he does not have any chitta vikshepa. He does not have any mental flickering. His mind does not repeatedly go to various other things out of attraction. Okay. So, for example, if a person in his life has always been attracted to worldly things, to more money and to more praise by others, he has been attached to that, he identifies with that, he is attached to his family and all these things. So when such a person understands the Shastras and comes to know about Krishna and his devotion to him, his practice of devotion to Krishna at the beginning will not be fixed. His mind will not be fixed in Krishna. His mind will not be fixed in devotion to Krishna because he has cultivated attachment to various worldly objects in the world. So it is natural that his mind will gravitate towards those things. Even at the time when he is engaging in worship of Krishna, his mind will think about the things that he used to do and used to enjoy. His attachment and all these things will come up. But for this jnani who knows the truth of the self, he does not identify with the body and the things related with the body. And thus, his mind does not have any attachment to the material things. So because his mind is free from any distractions, his practice of devotion to Krishna can be nitya yukta. He can be one-pointedly focused on serving Krishna. Other people cannot. The people who have had attachments, strong attachments in their lives, they will not be able to develop one-pointed focus in serving Krishna. But for a jnani, he can immediately develop one-pointed focus in serving Krishna because his mind does not have any distractions since the beginning of his devotional practice. So, ekanta bhaktitvam cha sambhavati. That is the point here. Other people will not be so focused in, one-pointedly focused in Krishna's seva. Therefore, this jnani is the best among these four. Atra cha idam pratipadyate. So then Jiva Goswami says, this is what is understood in this context, in this regard. तादृशत्वं तस्य तत्त्वं पदार्थज्ञानेऽपि सम्भवति इत्यास्तां तज्ज्ञानी तत्त्वं पदार्थज्ञानानन्तरभाव्यैक्यज्ञानी गुरूणामपि श्रीभगवत्प्रसादात् शुद्धभक्तिप्रवेशो दृश्यते यथा तृतीये. So, such a nature of a person, of a jnani, being devoid of distractions of the mind, is possible even on knowing about tat padartha and tvam padartha. This is a samasa here, the compound word, tattvam padartha jnane. Tat tvam asi is a very famous statement of the Upanishads. Tat means that, Brahman. Tvam means you, the Jeev. Tat Padartha is the supreme reality, Brahman. Tvam Padartha is the Jivatma, yourself. So, such a quality of being devoid of mental distraction is possible even for a person who knows about the absolute reality and himself, the Jivatma. Okay. So therefore, he is also included in the category of jnani. So first, he brought up Sridhara Swami's explanation that jnani is the one who knows about the self. Self here means the jiva. Is not identified with the body anymore. So now he also says that such a nature of non-identification with the body and being devoid of any mental distractions is also possible for a person who has been cultivating the knowledge of the Brahman and Jivan. In the sense they are one. Knowledge of he is being cultivating the knowledge of oneness between the Brahman and the Jiva. Such absence of mental distraction is possible also for such a person. And thus he can also be called Jnani according to the Bhagavad Gita. So, Tattvam Padartha Jnananantara Bhavya ऐक्य ज्ञानी गुरूणामपि भगवत् प्रसाद शुद्ध भक्ति प्रवेशो दृश्यते. Those who have this knowledge of tat padartha and tvam padartha, knowledge of Brahman and knowledge of the Jivatma, okay? They develop the conception of oneness of the Jiva with Brahman. Tat tvam asi. It basically means that you are. You are that. So the Jiva is said to be one with Brahman. Okay, so after you have this theoretical knowledge of that and this, Brahman and the Jiva, you develop Aikya Jnana, you develop the knowledge of oneness between the Brahman and the Jiva. Even if you have this knowledge of oneness, that the Jiva is Brahman, even if you are a very senior person, a very highly elevated person, very well regarded person, among the groups of people who have this knowledge that the Jiva is the same as Brahman, even for such people, Anantara Bhavya Aikya Jnani Gurunam Api, even those who are the highest people, even those who are the gurus of those who have this knowledge of oneness between Brahman and the Jiva, even for them, when they receive the blessing of Bhagavan Shri Vishnu, it is seen that they enter onto the path of pure devotion to Krishna. They leave their path of Aikya Jnana, they leave their path of cultivating knowledge of oneness with Brahman, and they enter the path of cultivating pure devotion, pure servitude towards Bhagavan Shri Hari. This is seen in the Shastra itself, as in the third skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam, 15th chapter, 43rd verse, describes the four Kumaras entering the Vaikuntha. Tasyaravind nayanasya padarvinda pinjalka mishra tulsi makaranda vayu antargatasva vivarena chakar tesham Sanshobhamaksharajushamapi chittatanvu. So, Bhagavan Shri Hari in Vaikuntha, he is described as Aravinda Nayana, having lotus-like eyes. His feet are also described as lotuses. So, Padaravinda Kinjalka. His feet are like lotuses and his toes are described as the filaments in the hole of that lotus. So, there is tulsi leaf kept on the toes of Shri Vishnu. Bhagavan Shri Vishnu always has tulsi leaf on his feet. He is always worshipped with tulsi leaves by offering it to his feet or by making a garland of tulsi leaves, and he is offered a garland which he wears around his chest. So tulsi is extremely dear to Shri Vishnu. So the tulsi present on the toes of Shri Vishnu, when the fragrance of this tulsi leaf on the toes of Vishnu mixes with the fragrance of the toes of Vishnu himself, and this fragrance, when it is carried by, when it was carried by the breeze in Vaikuntha, this breeze carrying the fragrance of the feet of Shri Vishnu mixed with the fragrance of tulsi on his feet, when this fragrance entered within the nostrils of these four sages, the four Kumaras, their minds were agitated with ecstasy. Sanshobham, they were very much overwhelmed by bliss. Although they were akshara drusha, although they took pleasure in eternal reality of Brahman, still their minds were agitated by this fragrance. And then they developed pure devotion to Sri Vishnu. They gave up the path of oneness of the Jiva and Brahman. So, even those who have been cultivating this knowledge of oneness between Brahman and the Jivatma, even for them it is possible, on receiving mercy of Bhagavan, that they can take up the practice of pure devotion to Vishnu. Tadetad abhipreti aha svacha chatusanga. So therefore, with this intention, Rupa Goswami has given the example of the four Kumaras as jnanis, becoming devotees of Krishna. Any question someone has, any doubt? Any comments? Okay. Tadevam, Jiva Goswami continues, Tadevam Shuddha शुद्धभक्तेः उत्कर्षव्यञ्जनार्थमेव एष उदाहृतः न तु वैध्यंशेऽपि रागप्राप्तत्वात् तच्च अनुभवज्ञानित्वात् अत एव शास्त्रशासनातीतत्वात् च. So now Jiva Goswami clarifies that Rupa Goswami gives the example of the four Kumaras only to bring to light the excellence of pure devotion to Krishna. Only to suggest that. Okay. Rupa Goswami does not intend to say that these four sages, the Kumaras, they are examples of those who are qualified to engage in Vaidhi Bhakti for Krishna. Those who are qualified to engage in devotion to Krishna according to the injunctions of the Shastra. Vaidhi Bhakti, we saw the definition. If your devotion to Krishna is only because the Shastras direct you to be devoted to Krishna, the Shastras instruct you that you should be devoted to Krishna, and only for that reason you are devoted to Krishna, that this is the right thing to do because the Shastras say so. then you are doing Vaidhi Bhakti. Your bhakti is Vaidhi. It is arising from the Shastric injunctions. Your motivation to engage in devotion to Krishna arises from Shastric injunctions. So, although these four kinds of people, uh, the one in distress, distress, and one having inquisitiveness, the one desiring material things, and the one in knowledge, although they four are said to be having the eligibility to engage in devotion to Krishna once they receive the mercy of Krishna's devotees. And this refers to eligibility to engage in Vaidhi Bhakti, because that is the context that is going. So, workshop. It was yesterday. 18th. 18th was yesterday, ma'am. Sorry. Yeah, let's continue. So, this is shown to, this is not, the example of the four Kumaras is not given to bring to light that they are having the eligibility to engage in Vaidhi Bhakti. No. They are not Vaidhi Bhaktas. They are not engaging in devotion to Krishna because the Shastras are saying so. The example of the four Kumaras is given by Rupa Goswami just to show the greatness of pure devotion to Krishna. That even those, even those who have realized oneness between Jiva and Paramatma, even they are motivated to engage in pure devotion to Krishna. Such is the greatness of pure devotion to Krishna. Such is the greatness of Krishna himself. Okay. Why are they not considered an example for being qualified to engage in Vaidhi Bhakti? Because they have already attained raga, attained emotional feelings for Krishna, for Sri Vishnu. Okay. Sankshoਭमक्षरजुषामपि चित्ततन्वो. Their bodies were filled with bliss. They experienced their body hair raising on its end out of great attraction towards Krishna on smelling the fragrance of his feet mixed with the tulsi in his feet. They already felt love for him. They already felt loving emotions for him. And because of that emotions they felt for him, their bodies were agitated. Okay. They have attained loving feelings for Krishna. So therefore they are not Vaidhi Bhaktas. Okay. So just a minute. So Tacha Anubhavatyanitvad. How did they develop loving feelings for Krishna? Because they experienced Krishna, experienced Vishnu in front of themselves. Anubhavatyanitva. When you have the direct experience of Krishna in front of your eyes, you have sakshatkar, direct realization of Krishna, then your practice of Krishna Bhakti is no more motivated by Shastric injunctions. You don't need the motivation of Shastras to engage in Krishna Bhakti once you have the direct experience of Krishna. Because these four sages had direct experience of Krishna, they already are said to have attained loving feelings for Krishna. Therefore, they are not engaging in devotion to Krishna motivated by the Shastras. Okay. Shastra Shasanati Tattva. They have already transcended the instructions of the Shastras. Okay. They don't need the motivation of the Shastras to engage in Krishna Bhakti. Okay. Vaidhyudaharanam tu tadrisha shabda jnanishu jnayam. So, for the jnanis who are eligible to engage in Krishna Bhakti, pure devotion to Krishna, The jnana that they have is Shabda jnana, Shastric knowledge only, not Anubhava jnana. They do not have direct experience of Krishna. They have the theoretical knowledge of Krishna as said in the Shastras. So those who have theoretical knowledge of Krishna and devotion to Krishna as described in the Shastras, and they are convinced about it, and they engage in devotion to Krishna because of that conviction. Their engagement in devotion to Krishna is called Vaidhi Bhakti because their engagement in devotion to Krishna is proceeding only from their Shastric conviction. Okay. So, though people who are having theoretical knowledge of Krishna, not the practical, not the direct experience of Krishna like the Kumaras, they are said to be the examples of jnanis who become eligible for engaging in pure devotion to Krishna. Okay. Any question, any doubt? Then he says, तथा आरंभत एव शुद्ध भक्त्युत्थाने पंचममपि उदाहरणं द्रष्टव्यं यथा पूर्वजन्मनि श्री नारद एव. So now Jiva Goswami says that in addition to four kinds of people, you should understand also a fifth person who is eligible to engage in devotion to Krishna, eligible to take up pure devotion to Krishna. What is that? Sri Narada in his earlier life. So before Narada became Narada, he was in his previous life, as he describes himself in the first skandha of Srimad Bhagavata, he was a son of a maid servant who was serving the great devotees of Sri Hari. So there he was blessed by these devotees and he became devoted to Krishna under their influence. This is the fifth example. Arambhata eva shuddha bhakti utthani. So this boy who became Narada in his next life, this boy was not distressed. He was not in any distress out of which he took to devotion to Krishna. He was not desiring any material attainment from before taking to devotion to Krishna. He was also not inquisitive to know about Krishna. Like these rishis of Naimisharanya, they were asking Suta Maharaj for about various things regarding Krishna. He was not having that inquisitiveness also. He just happened to serve them under the guidance of his mother, serve these devotees. By that he got attracted to Krishna. He was not inquisitive earlier. And he was also not a jnani. He was not in knowledge of Krishna. So this is the fifth kind of person who takes up to pure devotion from the beginning itself, without being classified into any of these four categories defined in the Gita. Shri Gita-dishvapi Rajavidya Rajaguhyaadhyayada Vidrisha Evadhikari Darshita. Then he says, even in the Bhagavad Gita and other Shastras, Shri Krishna says in the 9th chapter, Rajavidya Rajaguhya Adhyay. Okay, the 9th chapter. This kind of a person who takes up to devotion to Krishna is described in the 9th chapter. So this fifth kind of person is described in the 9th chapter, and these four kinds of people are described in the 7th chapter of the Gita. तदेतद् गीतोदाहरणं च तन्मतानुसारेणापि शुद्धभजने पर्यवस्यति इति ग्रन्थकृद्भिर्दर्शितम्. So therefore, this Gitodaharanam, this quotation from the Bhagavad Gita, according to the opinion of Rupa Goswami, is also included within pure devotion to Krishna. That's what he has shown already. Okay. Kuddha bhajane paryavasyati. Okay. So this person becomes eligible to in devotion to Krishna from the very beginning. He does not have either a condition of distress or inquisitiveness or anything. So he is automatically called a pure devotee of Krishna from the beginning. He does not change his affiliation from one thing to the other. He was not something, he was not a distressed person, he was not a materially interested person, he was not a knowledgeable person, he was not an inquisitive person before taking up devotion to Krishna. He directly took up to devotion to Krishna, pure devotion to Krishna. So, uh, therefore, uh, this statement of the Bhagavad Gita is attributed to pure devotion to Krishna as shown by Rupa Goswami. So we can understand it in two ways. Either the statement about the fifth adhikari, the fifth kind of person, like Narada who takes up to devotion to Krishna, that is directly called as a pure devotee. Also, these four kinds of people in the seventh chapter that Krishna describes, that Rupa Goswami uh, refers to in his verses. So they are also considered as engaging in pure devotion to Krishna because they are influenced by the mercy of Krishna's devotees and they take up to the practice of pure devotion to Krishna, being convinced in the Shastras because of the mercy of Krishna's devotees or Krishna himself. So they are also called pure devotees of Krishna. This person who is distressed also becomes a pure devotee. Paryavasyati, he ultimately becomes a pure devotee. The person who distressed, like this Gajendra, out of his distress, he called out for Shri Vishnu, but then he ultimately surrendered to Vishnu. That whatever you want, you can do with me. That is pure devotion. You may protect me, you may kill me, it's up to you. I am just your servant. That's the surrender he developed. That's the pure devotion he developed. Dhruva also the same way. He became a pure devotee of Shri Vishnu. The four Kumaras also that way. And these sages of Naimisharanya also, they graduated from their inquisitiveness and became completely devoted to Krishna, dedicated to him. So all of them ultimately became pure devotees of Krishna. That's what Rupa Goswami has shown in his statement, to which this is a commentary. Any questions someone has, any doubts? Okay. So then he says, Shri Vaishnavanam matetu sutaram eva iti tanna uttankitam vastutastu tatra hi jnani shabdena bhagavat jnani uchyate. Jiva Goswami brings up the point of Shri Vaishnavas, of Shri Ramanujacharya, Shri Vedanta Deshika, Pillai Lokacharya and others, the great Shri Vaishnava Acharyas. According to them, they are from the beginning itself pure devotees of Krishna. Sutaramev. Okay. So therefore, Rupa Goswami did not state anything about that. Then Jiva Goswami says, Vastutastu, actually, however, Jnani Shabdena Bhagavat Jnani eva uchyate. The word Jnani refers to Bhagavat Jnani, the one who has knowledge about Bhagavan. It does not speak actually about the knowledge of the Atma, does not actually speak about the knowledge of oneness between the Jiva and Paramatma. It actually speaks about knowledge of Bhagavan as the ultimate controller of everything and oneself as the servant of Bhagavan. That kind of Jnani is what is meant by the word Jnani in the Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, when he says the Jnani is extremely dear to him out of these four people. So, Purvam, so this statement, there are four kinds of people take to Krishna's devotion. That is 16th verse of the 7th chapter. So before that, in the second verse of the 7th chapter, Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyamya sheshta. I will now speak to you about knowledge along with vijnanam, along with particular knowledge about me. So after saying this to Arjuna, he uh, says, who can understand this? Who can have this jnana? Who can develop this knowledge in the next verse? Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschinmam vetti tattvatah. 7.3 Gita. Out of thousands of human beings, only one endeavors for perfection. Out of thousands who endeavor for perfection, only one knows Krishna in truth. Okay. In these verses, Krishna says that Atmajnana siddherapi durlabhatvam uktva swasya cha. Knowledge about Bhagavan, Krishna, is much more rarer than knowledge about the self or oneness of the self with Bhagavan. Okay. Manushyanam sahasresu kaschid yate siddhaye. Out of thousands of human beings, one may endeavor for perfection. Out of thousands who endeavor for perfection, one may know me in truth. Okay. So even if you know the Jivatma, even if you know the Paramatma and the oneness between them, it is very rare to find a person who actually knows Bhagavan in truth. Paschinmam vetti tattvata. Okay. After saying that, Krishna says that bhumirapo nalo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankar iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air and space, these are my five separated Shaktis. And the Jivatma is my earth, water, fire, and space, along with mind, intelligence, and the ego are my 8 separated Shaktis. My Shakti, which has 8 parts, and the Jivatma is superior to these 8 Shaktis. Superior to the material Shakti, it is Jiva Shakti. So this is what he says in 7.4 and 7.5. Pradhanakya Jivakya Shakti Dvaya Karanake Swasmin Parama Karanat Amukta. And he establishes himself to be the cause of his Jiva Shakti and his Pradhana Shakti, means his material Shakti, Shakti of Pradhan. Unmanifest matter is called Pradhan. So he establishes himself to be the cause of both of them, and thus to be the supreme cause of all causes. In 7.4 and 7.5 establishes himself. Krishna says, I am the cause. Tata eva sarvashreshtatvam sarvashrayatvam cha uktam. So by that itself, Krishna indicates that he is the supreme most entity and he is the shelter of everything in the world. And then 7.9, Krishna says, sarvashrayatvam, although he is the shelter of everything, still, punyo gandha prathivyam cha, I am the smell in earth, I am the taste in water. He continues that description. So by these statements, he says that he is, so this punyadi shabdana, these words such as punya means auspicious, spotless, pure. So these adjectives that are there in the Gita, he shows that all of them, according to their proper context, refer doshas prishtah, refer to those qualities of Krishna which are pure qualities, spotless qualities. All his qualities are spotless. All his qualities are pure. So, sarve guna, all his qualities which are untouched by any faults, as understood by the words such as punya, gandha prithvi, I am the pure fragrance of earth, I am the original taste of water. So he's saying that his qualities are very pure. Tesham atituchanamapi swabheda nirdeshan. And he considers, he described these qualities as his own qualities, not different from him. Although these are material qualities, but still, because they are his Shaktis, although they are material, although they are extremely insignificant, because they are not different from him by virtue of their being his Shaktis, he says that these qualities belong to me. I am the possessor of these qualities, and thus I am pure. Then he says, what if these qualities are very pure, which belong to me? What to speak of those qualities which are actually belonging to my own nature? So the qualities of the material nature, like fragrance, pure fragrance, and original taste of water, as said in the Gita, they are external Shaktis of Bhagavan. They are of this world, constituted of matter. But he says that I am that. I am the taste of water. I am the smell of the earth and all these things. All these qualities he describes. So by this he says that if these things are so pure and if I am these things, whereas actually these things are very insignificant and very low in comparison to me, then what to actually speak about my proper qualities, sakshat swagunana, my real qualities. Real means they belong directly to me as a part of my very swarupa, my very nature. How much more pure will be those qualities? How much more great and supreme will those qualities be? Okay? That's what he clarifies in those statements by referring to himself as the fragrance of earth, taste of water, and so on. If I am all these good things, which are very low, what you can imagine about, what can you imagine about my real nature, my spiritual nature? And then he also alludes to his infinitude, his limitlessness in those statements regarding this world, that I am this, I am holding the earth and I am the maintainer of this and that. So, tatra cha, then he says, ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasas tamasascha ye matta eveti tan vidit natvaham teshu te. All these things, whether sattvika, rajasika or tamasika, they come only from me and they are in me, but I am not in them. So by this, he says that I am not touched by the qualities of Maya. I am totally free from Maya. They are in me, but I am not in them. I am free from them, but they are dependent on me. They cannot exist without me. But I am not dependent on them. I am free from them. So any questions someone has, any doubts so far? Any confusion? So let us end our today's class over here. And we'll continue from this commentary in the next class. Thank you very much for participating today.
Thank you, Parashik. Sarvam Sri Krishna Namaste.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah.